They say the Nile gave birth to civilization, but these days it's not birthing, it's breaking. This river, which once flowed like a blessing from the gods, now staggers forward, tangled in human ambition, parched by politics, and fragmented by fear. The Nile isn't dying naturally. It's being divided, not just by dams and borders, but by mistrust. For over 5,000 years, the Nile has flowed northward through deserts and empires. It was the river of pharaohs and prophets. It carved the very lifeline of Egypt and cradled the kingdoms of Nubia and Kush. The annual flood wasn't just a season, it was a sacred rhythm. When the river rose, the people danced. When it receded, the earth bore fruit. It was predictable, generous, eternal. But today, the Nile is a river in tension, not with nature, but with us. At its heart is a source we rarely see, in the highlands of Ethiopia, where the Blue Nile begins its journey. From there, it rushes westward, joining the White Nile from Lake Victoria in Sudan, then meanders through the Egyptian deserts until it touches the Mediterranean. 3 countries, 1 river, but no agreement. Ethiopia calls the dam they've built the Grand Ethiopian Renaissance Dam. GERD, a project of pride, progress, and independence. A way to electrify homes, irrigate farms, and uplift millions. They see it as a right, a reclaiming of their share of a river they've long contributed to but never controlled. But downstream in Egypt, it's seen differently. There, the Nile isn't just a river, it's everything. 97% of Egypt's water comes from the Nile. Without it, there is no Cairo, no Alexandria, no fields of wheat stretching into the horizon. The river doesn't just feed the soil, it holds the country together. And Sudan, caught in the middle, geographically, politically, hydrologically, a nation of complexities, watching 2 powerful neighbors make moves that ripple far beyond borders. This isn't just geopolitics, this is spiritual erosion. Because the Nile was once a symbol of unity, a divine thread connecting peoples and gods. In ancient Egypt, the Nile was a god in itself. Hapi, the bringer of abundance. The annual flood was a miracle, and its silt was sacred. The entire belief system, from the weighing of the heart to the construction of pyramids, depended on this river flowing, returning, renewing. Today, that spiritual thread has frayed. We measure the Nile in cubic meters now. We debate it in boardrooms, on news panels, in security councils. But who asks what the river feels? Who remembers its role not as a commodity, but as a covenant? It's not just the GERD. Climate change is shrinking the river's volume. Rainfall patterns are shifting. Upstream deforestation disrupts the basin. Saltwater intrusion threatens the delta. And millions live with water stress. Even as the Great Nile flows by, villagers in Upper Egypt dig deeper wells. Fishermen in Sudan speak of strange seasons. Farmers in Ethiopia face uncertainty when dam releases are delayed. And yet, governments cling to historic treaties signed in colonial times, based not on equity, but on power. We treat water like it's negotiable, like it will always bend to our will. But rivers are older than borders, older than flags, older than us. The Nile has outlived empires. It has seen the rise and fall of kings. It has reflected the pyramids, washed the feet of prophets, and carved its name into our myths. But now, it reflects something else. Our fear of each other. A fear that if one gains, the other must lose. That if the dam fills, the river dies. That cooperation is weakness. That compromise is betrayal. But here's the truth. The Nile can still be enough for all 3 nations, if we remember what it once was. Not a weapon, not a prize, but a shared breath. What if the future wasn't built on competition, but on remembering that water is not owned, it is offered, that rivers do not speak the language of war. They speak the language of life, and that language is slipping away. Already, the delta is shrinking. Salt water creeps into once fertile fields. Children in Cairo drink from bottles instead of the tap. Crops wither in the heat. The river, once the giver of all things, now arrives thinner, quieter, less sure of itself. And yet, we delay, we politicize, we posture, but the river keeps flowing. Even as we fight over it, it reminds us that time is not waiting, that agreements made too late are no better than no agreements at all. There are voices rising, scientists, diplomats, youth, elders, calling for cooperation, calling for basin-wide thinking, for dignity on all sides, for dialogue rooted not in fear, but in legacy. Because the Nile is not just geography, it is inheritance, and we are its stewards, not its owners. To divide the Nile is to divide history. To poison it is to poison myth. To let it suffer is to let the gods go silent. And if we lose this river, we lose more than water. We lose one of the last remaining threads that connects us not just to the earth, but to each other. So if this story flows into something deeper in you, subscribe to Myths and Mysticism of Rivers. Because rivers don't just carry water, they carry warning and wonder, and they carry us if we let them.